Hey, we're here and we're back on the podcast with Mr. Brett Farmiloe, who is here to tell us about how to get featured in the media. He has lessons from reviewing 1 million plus pitches across platforms that such as HARO, which is Help a Reporter Out, which his company recently acquired and relaunched. And he's also the founder and CEO of Featured.com, which is a platform where 50,000 plus subject matter experts contribute insights to outlets like Fast Company, Entrepreneur, and over 2,500 other publishers. If you're someone who wants to get more attention for your brand, your company, your cause, if you feel like you're so obscure, but you're also jealous, envious of these people that play the publicity game, that know all about earned media, we want some secrets from the insider man himself, then we're in exactly the right place. So, Mr. Brett, glad to be speaking with you.
Robert, thanks for having me on the pod. That was such a good introduction. I feel like just doing a mic drop and leaving. That was great. Thanks for the kind words.
Right. There's nowhere to go but down from here. And so like this, like, you know, we always need attention on what we do, right? And you hear about things like, well, SEO and organic and paid ads, and there's all these downside to all those other things. And then I know like so many years ago, someone talked about this concept of help a reporter out, HARO. And they said that, and this was, I don't even know how many decades ago, but they said like, you sign up for this service and then you get all these emails throughout the day. And there are these reporters like, you know, writing news articles, and they just want like 100-word blurb in some expert on something. And then if that's you and you can bust something out in like a couple of hours and get it to them, then you can be in all these really well-known publications. And I thought, man, everyone would talk about it, but I never actually knew anyone that did it or stuck with it consistently as a habit. And it's always just been this kind of mysterious thing, right? And sometimes you see people, they get on the Fast Company or on the Entrepreneur, and I'm just like, how is it done? So that's what we're here to figure out from you. So what is this whole earned media thing all about? What's Featured? What's HARO?
Yeah, well, HARO is quite the comeback story. It was founded in 2008, and we revived it, acquired it, and revived it about a month ago in April. And it's been eye-opening to hear some of the stories from users who have used it all the way back in 2008, who answer. Basically what HARO does, it connects journalists with sources for stories. So how it works is a journalist will put out a query in HARO, we'll then approve it, and we'll put it into a 3 times a day email newsletter that goes out to anyone who subscribes. And if you have expertise to share, then you could reply directly back to the reporter and get featured in stories. And so it's incredible because it's an equal playing field. It's purely just, if you have the expertise, if you've got the credentials, if you've got the earned experience, you could share that directly with the journalist and have that be useful and helpful for a reader and for their story. So it's a really cool service. And then Featured.com is essentially an extension of that. It's a platform instead of an email-based newsletter that allows you to respond in real time to journalist queries and get featured. And as you mentioned, quite a few different publications that are using both services.
Very nice. So there's no more excuses left, right? You said level playing field. There's no nepotism. There's no having to put down a bunch of money. If you can do the hard work and grind it out and have this habit and put in the time, that you can get on some of these publications. And so to help us really understand, like, what have you seen? Like, is there a really cool like success story that kind of helps us get our heads wrapped around what's possible with these platforms?
Yeah, totally. It's like we could talk the whole pod about success stories from just normal people who subscribed to Help a Reporter and received a query and responded to it, and next thing you know, they're on some TV show, some news telecast, maybe this pod. You never know. And so, you know, I was just talking with somebody a couple hours ago that he came out with his first book. He signed up for HARO to help promote the book, and then was on a talk show on like that was actually hosted by Donald Trump back in the day, and it was like he said that his name was one of the top 2 trending queries on Yahoo back when Yahoo was a really popular search engine, and it single-handedly put him on the New York Times bestseller list. I was like, nice. that one, you know, media appearance. And so like that's just a you know, an example of it, but we see, you know, hundreds of thousands of different sources who are answering queries for journalists, getting featured on podcasts, getting featured in newspapers and online blogs, and you name it.
And do you know of like how, like, the people that make it work, right? The people that really make this whole publicity thing, especially on your platform, a habit. They put in the time, they schedule it, they stick to it. Maybe they have a VA working on it. Like, what's their secret sauce? Because you hear so many people, like, they hear about something like HARO or Featured. It's such a distraction. They sign up, they play with it for a few weeks, they get impatient, they get off to the next distraction. So how does someone really make this part of their daily, weekly schedule and make it stick?
Yeah, I think that's a great assessment. I think that time is your biggest uh, bottleneck in using platforms like this, and to use it effectively, you have to have monitoring. You've got to be able to identify the right queries at the right time and reply back to those queries in a thoughtful way. And so, the thing I always recommend with featured.com is to sign up for a free account, set 3 keyword alerts, and then start to receive emails when there are relevant queries. That's the big difference between featured.com and HARO is HARO is going to be a 3 times a day email newsletter that doesn't have monitoring at all. You're going to have to manually comb through all of that stuff and reply directly. There's no visibility in terms of if your pitch was read by a reporter, you're relying on that reporter to get back to you. Whereas Featured has tracking from pitch to publication, and you're able to see what the status is of that. So to your point, that it's kind of a mystery box, media as a whole is, and both platforms are trying to shine some light on that so that people are just everyday people with expertise are able to share their knowledge and be have that put in a useful way.
Do you know of any do's and don'ts about this platform? Because I can imagine the abuse or the spam or the overuse of
Sure.
AI. I can imagine it goes wrong in so many ways if you're not careful.
Yeah, I would say don't reply to everything. I think that part of the reason why we now own HARO and why it had its demise was that many people kind of like put the mantra out there that it's a numbers game, and the more that you reply, the more backlinks that you'll get. And that's definitely not how to use either of these platforms. Journalists want helpful responses that are from authentic quality sources. And if you're not one of those quality sources, don't waste your time. Don't waste someone else's time. So I think that's the first don't do. Like I said, set up keyword alerts so that you can maximize your time and reply to the right things. And then, in terms of AI use, I find that it's best to share your answer and your response right off the cuff, right from the heart, right from the brain, right from your earned expertise, and then you could use AI to kind of like polish it a little bit. But you have all of the knowledge, and AI is the baseline. So your job as a source is to take that baseline one step higher, and that's what journalists actually want to feature.
Nice. Well, like you said, it's such a weird, goofy game, right? It's so hard to get your head wrapped around it. And so, do you have a take on this whole publicity thing? Do you think that like everyone should spend like X amount of their budget, X amount of time? Because it's such this weird like intangible long shot. Almost kind of feels like gambling sometimes, like prospecting. So, like, what's your take on just the goofiness of publicity and like getting us to like take it more seriously?
Yeah, I actually hear that a lot. That analogy is not the first time I've heard like gambling or a casino being used to see how platforms like media operates. I think that when it comes down to it, it's really about looking ahead at what the future of online looks like, and I think that people become increasingly more important. I think that AI is the knowledge level or the baseline, and your expertise, your name, your image, your likeness is increasingly becoming more important to rise above the generated content. And so if I'm able to look and see, here's this answer in a blog post that's attributed to Robert. Well, I know Robert knows about this and this. And by you associating your name and likeness to an answer, now that's more authoritative. It's more useful for a reader. It's more useful for a search engine to now have more confidence that, hey, this actually came from Robert versus some AI generated machine. And I think that people and their brands are becoming, more important and more valuable in 2025.
The good old experience, expertise, authoritative trust, right? That what a
Yep.
concept, EEAT. And you have to wonder if like the pendulum's going to swing back and forth the way it was in the early SEO days and Google Slap days, where it was like the bots kind of took over, and then they got kind of pushed down, and then it was back to the human, and it was back to the techniques, and maybe that'll happen with AI like that on steroids. Well, who knows? And so since to that point, we're talking about the humanness and the personality. My understanding is that you had a cool kind of publicity experience of your own, like you toured around in an RV and did some cool stuff. So what was that about?
Yeah, probably right around when HARO first came out. I was just coming out of college and decided to hop in an RV and go interview people about their career paths and document those stories on a career website for other college students to look at to figure out what should they do after they graduate. And so me and three buddies got in an RV and we traveled everywhere, 38 states, 16,000 miles, interviewed 300 people, stopped by places like EA Sports, Microsoft, the New York Times, Nike, and then other places like a fainting goat farm. So, everything in between.
And do you ever think about that kind of, I don't even know how to put it into words, but there's this idea of like, say you have, I mean, like TV show, it's such a broad concept now, right? What used to be called a TV show, it could be reality show or like YouTube series, but there's this idea of you have like a formula and a structure, and then you have the repetition of like, well, hey, today we're visiting Electronic Arts, today we're visiting Nike, but it's kind of like you know what you're tuning in to get, but there's also the element of variety. So do you ever think about that when you're like doing like a podcast, YouTube series, this idea of like there's like the sameness, but also the variety?
Yeah, totally. Like, I think that one of the biggest realizations in 2025 is how and where people want to be featured is drastically changing. And you think about when we were on this road trip, we pulled into Union Square in New York, and we're on a Good Day New York, and we're in Seattle on this talk show called Northwest Afternoon. It was like, I think it was the claim to fame in Seattle was like, it was the longest running talk show on TV, something like that. If you think about that, like, I mean, look, at the end of the day, being on your pod, being on a YouTube channel, being on featured in a LinkedIn reel, media is just changing. And I think that it's about, if you're a small business owner, if you're a marketer, it's about identifying those audiences where your customers hang out. That no matter what, if this is the year 2001, if this is the year 2025, businesses need to connect with customers. Where are your customers? Find those audiences, get on those shows, get in those articles, get in however the media changes, because you need to be in front of your customers, and that's what today is defining itself as.
Nice. And that's some really good evergreen advice, right? That way you don't necessarily have to keep up on, oh, well, the reels are hot now or podcast is hot now. You're just like, hey, where are your customers at? Where are they hanging out? What are they listening to? Where are they learning? Just get in front of that. And so, but sometimes it's easier said than done, right? Someone says, oh, being on a talk show in Seattle, being on a podcast, I'm so scared. I'm so nervous. It's outside my comfort zone. What do you say to someone like that who's maybe afraid of being even just on a podcast or afraid of making a YouTube? How do they push past that fear?
Yeah, I think it goes back to the motto that's guided featured and guided HARO for so long, which is everyone is an expert at something. All right. So people always, especially the experts, I've found, especially the people with expertise, doubt themselves and the value that they're able to provide to, podcasts and things like that. So I think that it's a matter of recognizing that you do have expertise in something, you do have hard-earned, real-world experience that's valuable to share, and then it's just finding the right microphone to get on where that expertise is valued. So I think that that's a thing I've seen time and time again. And once you could get over that first hurdle, share your 4 to 8 sentence answer on featured or get on a podcast for the first time, it becomes a little easier after that.
Yeah, put in the repetitions, put in the practice. And so I'm glad you mentioned a little bit about the structure there, right? You dropped in there like 4 to 8 sentence. And so I know that you've seen a lot of these contributions, right? And it's like when you're trying to pitch yourself for a podcast or get on the news, it's always about just the hook, right? I need to get this journalist's attention or this podcast host attention. And I'm sure there's lots of do's and don'ts in that category. And so what do you see about the pitches that suck versus the pitches that really just get through and make a difference?
I think it depends on the platform. So on feature.com specifically, we have a format that works really, really well. It's 4 to 8 sentences, and just answer the question directly. So we discourage greetings like, "Hi, Robert, my name is Brett," because you already have your profile information and featured. Just get right to the point and share it directly. On HARO, because there's no profile information, you really have to say, "Hi, Robert, my name is Brett. I own HARO." So having an introduction to that now can go into something that's more short, concise. But generally speaking, I think about 4 to 8 sentences is enough of a length to allow you to get your point across. And if a journalist is interested in engaging and learning more, then they could dive back in and say, "Hey, I have some follow-up questions. Why don't we hop on a call or answer these via email?" So that's typically how that exchange works.
Very nice. Well, people need to know about this, right? They need to know that this is possible and this is a game that they can play. They can be featured in these publications. They can get on podcasts. They can get on the news. They can get taken seriously, but they do have to go and find these opportunities. And I want to make sure that we cover the bases, because I'm sure there's like a really good question that I should be asking you about yourself, about featured, about HARO, about publicity, something, right? I'm sure there's like a really good gem in our conversation somewhere. So is there a invisible, missing, hidden question in this conversation that I should be asking you? I just don't know to ask you.
That is a good question. I'm not sure if there's an invisible question, as much as, like, what's the advice in 2025 that can kind of help guide yourself in your career, guide yourself in your media efforts, whatever it is. And the thing that's always guided me was a piece of advice that got shared on this road trip, which was pick a costume, be it, and if it doesn't fit, put on a different costume on until you find one that fits. And I think that that's true with marketing. I think that's true with careers, where you could one day go onto HARO and have your template, and you put that template on and send that out to some different reporters, and you could have 0 bites. And you're like, all right, you know what? That costume didn't fit too well. Let me put something else on the next day. New template, recycle the, test out the length, whatever it is, subject line, and you put that on until you find something that works, you feel pretty comfortable in, and then you could run with that. And I think that's probably the best advice there.
Yeah, and I love the costume visual of that, because it's like, well, you're not being like disingenuous, but then there's also the need to be yourself and then some, right? You need to be kind of like switched on and be like your best person, your best foot forward. When you're like on camera or something, you're really energetic, you're really alive, and you're kind of just like fully there and fully energetic. And it's like that. I think for me that helps to overcome some of the nervousness, anxiety, hesitation, self-doubt, all that stuff. That's like, well, put that aside. Bring that back in 10, 20 minutes after you've done your podcast appearance, or after you've contributed your journalist snippet. But for now, pursue these goals and hopes and dreams, right? Get attention about yourself and your career and your industry and your company, and do all these amazing things. And so what are some next steps here? If someone says, all right, I'm really impressed with what Brett has built and what he's acquired and what he's relaunched, how does someone know if they should begin using Featured or HARO or both? And what are some next steps here?
Yeah, I would always say go to feature.com, sign up for a free account, set up 3 keyword alerts, and see what kind of stuff comes back. Answer up to 3 questions a month at no cost, and kind of see what happens. And then also subsequently just sign up for HARO at helpareporter.com, and you'll start to receive up to 3 emails a day with a summary of different journalist queries, and chime in if you got some expertise to share.
Very cool. So get signed up, take that next step. We said that there's featured.com, which is the visibility platform for every subject matter expert. Experts answer publisher questions, they submit articles, and conduct interviews. Then they partner with publishers to feature expert content on leading media sites, and subject matter experts establish thought leadership, and publishers get a reliable source of quality content. And then you said that other resource is helpareporter.com. You sign up, you get the 3 emails per day, and you see what comes up. You see what's relevant to you, what you can reply to, and you can grind it out and get attention. And it sure beats posting on social media and waiting around for some likes and comments. Did that really lead to much? Maybe if you're super duper lucky, but why not create your own luck and pursue these media publicity opportunities and see where the reporters are stuck and see what they want you to talk about? You could chime in and just be get these new media exposures, right? Maybe you'll be spoken about on a reality show hosted by Donald Trump. Who knows what? And so as far as people going to featured.com and helpareporter.com, it's always good to end with one last little nugget of wisdom, right, Mr. Brett? And so that's why it's time for the scary, terrifying part of the show where I try to completely make you go blank and I ask for a quote or lesson that has served you in life or in business that you can pass on to us. So what comes to mind as far as a fun quote or lesson?
Yeah, we're talking a lot about fear in this podcast and being scared and getting over that hump. And I mentioned a fainting goat farm that we visited on the road trip. Fainting goats, if you haven't seen them on YouTube, look them up. It's basically when you're a baby fainting goat, you haven't learned fear yet. You haven't received that dose of adrenaline that literally paralyzes you as an adult fainting goat. And so whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you're looking to make your first pitch in the media, whatever it is, channel your baby fainting goat. As corny as that sounds, it's really what I'm saying is be fearless. Try to move forward. Don't get in your own way, one step at a time, and you never know where the journey might take you.
Right, to unexpected places, for sure. Well, Mr. Brett Farmiloe from featured.com and helpareporter.com, thanks for being here and exciting us, educating us, inspiring us, I should say, and just being a lot of fun, having a great conversation. Thanks for coming, and thanks for providing for us.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Robert.
All right.